This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to beautiful Montana. Yes, the state of Montana, here's the flag. We're gonna be gathering resources from workers and trying to build settlements, and we're gonna be gathering a lot of pumpkins, which we can also use in the city for trading and other things. Today we're looking at this worker placement game called Montana from White Goblin Games. So I'm going to show you how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. Montana is a worker placement game, but essentially it's a racing game because you're trying to spend resources to be able to build settlements. Everyone has a certain amount of settlements. The first one to run out will be the winner. Each player will get a board. This is the red player, and each of the other boards has this color of whatever they are. Everyone's, again, going to get settlements depending on the amount of players, and everyone's going to get one of the 4 different types of goods. You have copper, stone, pumpkin, and wheat. Everyone's going to start off with 4 workers. These will be randomly assigned. I'll show you that later. And everyone will start off with some money. So this is the board you use, and it has a summary of all the actions on there. The first thing you can do on your turn, again, you only do 1 of 3 actions on your turn, is to get more workers. You can have up to 8. I have 4 already. Here's 4 more. So let's show you how to get more workers. Yes, it uses a spinner, which I absolutely love, actually. You have to spin it so it goes around at least once, and wherever it stops, you get these 2 workers. You'd get one of those and one of those, and this tells you, by color, you can know what they get, but if you're colorblind, it shows you the symbol of the type of resources that those workers provide. If it's exactly on the line, you go to the one just after. If it's on the one that's too white, you actually get to choose which 2 workers you want. Now, let's say it did end here as I just showed. I would have gotten these 2. Once per turn after you've spun for workers, you can spend 1 grain for every space that you want to move it forward. So if I wanted to spend 1 grain for my supply, I'd spend it and move it 1, and here I'd get 2 of the ones that I get to choose. But let's say I had gone here. Then I would need to spend 2 wheat, 1 to go here, 1 to go here, and you can only go to 1 different spot. So once per turn, you can go to 1 different spot, spending 1 wheat every time to get whatever workers are there, and that's how you gain workers. So what do you do when you have those workers? Well, on a subsequent turn, instead of getting more workers, recruiting, you can use those workers. Now this board is for everybody to place on. There's 4 different main sections of resources. So here's where you're gonna get all the copper. Here's where you're gonna get all the stone, all the wheat, all the pumpkin. This is where you get the money. So if you had a worker, you could place 1 here, a copper here. If you put 1 copper here, you could spend 1 coin to get a copper. In addition to that, you could spend another 1 right away on that turn to get an additional 1. So only the left spots are where you could go first, but if you go to that spot, immediately you can do the spot on the right. Now, the other ones here, essentially you're spending the same amount of workers, but you're spending more money. $3 to get 2, and maybe an additional worker to get 1, $6 to get 3, an additional worker to get 1. Now you'll see these little white workers here. That means if you don't have this worker, you can use any 2 workers of another type. So I can use 2 here. Same with this. I could have put 1 here, and then I could have put 2 workers of any type here to get the last one. Now these would stay on the board for now, but then that would be my turn because you're only placing 1. These other areas work exactly the same way. They might have slightly different stats, but they all work the same way, using 1 worker of the main type for that type, of that color, or you can use 2 of the other workers. When you go to the money, the bank, you can use a certain amount of any of the workers. Since it's white, you can use any of them. 3 any workers get you 12, all the way down to 1 worker gets you 6. So that's how the main parts of the board work, and that's what you can do on your turn, is place 1 set of workers to get some different things. Also, when gathering resources, there's a certain amount depending on the amount of players, and if the pool has run out, everyone has to put 1 back, and this player can try to get as many as they're supposed to get. If they still can't get it, everyone has to put 1 back. So you could cause a scarcity in the resources, and it's an interesting strategy of the game. The last area of the board is called the city, and this is what you'd use if you were going to place your workers, but in this case you don't actually place them. You have a certain figure here that you'll place. It's sort of like a bidding mechanism. The first player to place on the city in a turn gets a pumpkin, so they actually get a pumpkin as a resource. They can go to any of these spots. So let's say the red player went, and they went here. This means that they would have to spend 1 pumpkin in order to get this reward. However, going clockwise order, everyone else can try to also bid here. So someone else might be able to outbid them and go here, they have to be able to pay for this. They need 2 pumpkins. Now this player can either go back and pass, or they can outbid this player, which would push them back, or they could go to another spot. Maybe they're like, okay, well then I'll just spend 2 pumpkins and get this reward. So you continue doing this in clockwise order, bumping people off until everyone's passed or everyone is on a spot, and then they're able to pay the resources in pumpkins. Then you get certain rewards, like this one allows you to pay 2 coins, and you can upgrade your components. That's what that arrow means. It's essentially, most of the copper and stone looks like that, but there are larger ones. It's the only way to get larger ones. We'll show you why you use these later, but you essentially could get 2 coins, and then I could trade this in to get this. Similar things in the other ones. This allows you to trade up 2. This one allows you to get any 3 of these resources in any combination. And again, you can do upgrades and get a cow. We'll tell you what those do later, but that's a very interesting, different mechanism in the board. And this is all part of that work phase if that's what you decide to do. Now that you know how to get more workers, how to use workers, well, the object of the game is to run out of those settlements, and this is how the board's set up. Now, this is a completely modular board that comes with these huge different hexes types materials, and then you'll use a certain amount and set it up a specific way depending on how many players. This happens to be a 3-player setup, but again, even in a 3-player game, even though you'll have 4 of these in the bottom column, then 3, then 2, the tiles of which ones you use and their orientation is going to be random, and there are definitely tiles that aren't used. Even in the 4-player game, there's some extra tiles, so every game is going to be different. Also, the start tile, this is the starting settlement, can go in any field in the game. I just put it in the middle for now, but you could put it way in the corner, which would make the game very different. Why? Because at the beginning of the game, if someone's going to build, they have to build either right around the settlement here. And some of these have additional cows that you use during setup. I'll tell you what these do later, but they're good to get. So on your turn, you can just trade in a good that's next to the original settlement there, and you could place one of your things. So if I wanted to go here, I would pay 2 stone and 1 wheat, and I'd be able to place a settlement here. Now, on your turn, you could build up to 3 settlements. So if I had enough, I could build, let's say I had 5 more stone. I could go here, and I would get the cow. I would place this on my board. And let's say I even saved up a huge amount. I had 3 more copper. So you could build up to 3 settlements on a turn. Now, when you build settlements, if you just build 1, you actually get to take 2 coins. If you build 2 settlements, you could take 1 coin, or you could build all 3. So if you just build 1, you'll take coins. If you build less than 3, you'll take a certain amount of coins. Also, if you build 4 in a row, you'll get an extra settlement. Let's look at this. Now, this first settlement that we placed had to touch the beginning settlement, but then anytime any player places a settlement, it can be next to anything. So somebody else could start over here or over here. As long as they're touching any other settlement, they can do that. Now, I have 3 in a row. Let's say I wanted to build here. I would pay those resources. As soon as you get 4 in a row in a line, you get to put a second one, which is pretty big in this game because the game is very tight. Also, anytime you build on any of these lighter ones that have little 2 houses, so let's say I had 2 of the larger, I had a large stone and a large copper, I would put that in, and I get to put 2 of them there because those are the ones that have the 2 houses on them. So it's these light ones. They also have these 2 little green houses to show you put 2 of them. And so that's pretty much it. You're building settlements, you're trying to get there. If you ever build next to the canteen, you would get, of course, the cow here, but you'd also get this canteen. So let's talk about what those do. The canteen goes right in the canteen spot, and the cows go over here where the cows go. Now, on your turn, as many times as you want, you can turn in 1 cow for either any 1 good, or 3 coins, or any worker of your choice. That's huge. The canteen at the end of your turn, you would turn this in and get rid of it, and you would get an extra turn at the end of your turn. That's pretty much it. First one to run out of tiles wins. Everyone would get an equal amount of turns. If more than 1 player had gotten rid of all their settlements on the same round, you go to tiebreakers. And so if it is tied, the person who has the most combined cows and canteens would win. If it's still tied, it's the most coins, goods, and workers. All right, there's Montana. I think this game is a great light medium Euro in a short period of time. It's not necessarily a gateway game. I wouldn't teach this to someone that hadn't played a lot of games before, but it'd be like if someone played an entry-level worker placement game like Fabled Fruit. This would be a great next step game, but there's still a lot of depth here as well. I like that the game has a modular board. It adds a lot of variability. The way it's set up is sort of a little bit the same for each of the player count, but all the tiles are different and they're spun in a different way, and it really changes the game a lot because a lot of the game is trying to figure out what path you're going to be going and how you're going to be building settlements, because you're trying to get 4 settlements in a row if you can to place that extra 1. And then, sometimes a lot of the double settlement tiles will be right there and clumped together, which will make people fight over it. Or sometimes they're all spread out and people will be going in different directions. So I like how every game feels different because of that. Now, this game, the thing I like the most are big turns are exhilarating in this. You'll have these turns where you turn on resources, build a settlement, turn on other resources, build a settlement, build another settlement, use some cows to trade in things, and then put a fourth settlement on there. And it's very exhilarating to get 4 in a row like that, or to go into one of those double ones and just boom, put them all down. So if you like to have these really big turns that you're saving up for and going down, I think this is going to be one you like, a piece of this that you like. It's something. It was the thing I liked the most about the game, is those very fulfilling large turns that you can have, and you're trying to get those 4 in a row, and it's because you can obviously let that one down. And it's interesting to try to figure out, try to work your way around, because you can place settlements around anything that's already out on the board. So you're trying to plan for this and that, but then if somebody goes there, you got to figure out a different plan. And I like that you can either hold off for those big turns, or you can try to block others. So you're trying to work on these big turns, but someone else is getting close to 4 in a row. Maybe you'll just take the resources you have now, do a 1 settlement and block them, just because that's what you need to do. And that brings up another interesting thing of the strategy here is sometimes you'll want to do those big turns, because as I mentioned, they're awesome, but sometimes you'll want to sort of slow play it, where you play a settlement down, and every time if you just play 1, you get 2 coins. Right? Next turn, play another settlement, take 2 coins, take another. So you can get all the settlements down in 1 turn, 3 of them, and get no extra money, or you could take 3 turns to do it, but get 6 coins and sort of slow play it, but make money so that you don't have to do that later. Some interesting decisions there on when to do that, because if nobody else is going to be able to block you based upon what resources they have and stuff, you might want to do that to both build settlements and make money at the same time. So it's a pretty interesting thing to think about there. I think this game feels bigger in its play than it really is in its time. It's one of those things that I think is very hard to do in gaming, which is make sort of that light medium game that has easy rule set but then has a lot of depth, and this has that. So I really like that about it. I liked the spinner. Most people don't like spinners in the game, but I like it because it's cool. The last game that had a spinner that I really liked was Tumult Royale from the creator of Catan. That was really fun in that. It's fun in this. I know some people have already been complaining like crazy online about the spinner, but I like that you can, if you have resources, the wheat, you can spend it to move it to where you need it to go, and I think that's cool. You can cause resource shortages in this game, which I think is really cool. It's another aspect of the game where you see someone gathering a bunch of resources, getting ready to have a big turn. You could go get a bunch of those resources, make them put some back, and it's going to take them another turn or two to get things back to where they need to be, especially if some of those spots are blocked and they don't have enough money. So it's cool that you can cause a resource shortage there. Anything I didn't like about the game? Well, the game itself, I mentioned that it's a shorter game. The box says 45 minutes. Before I get to this, what I loved about it is that the game is actually much shorter than I expected it to be. My last 2-player game we played, both of us were very familiar with the game. Our last game took 23 minutes in a 2-player game. And for the amount of game that was there, I felt like I played a 1-hour game in a good way, meaning there were a lot of great decisions. It felt like a bigger game, but it was over quickly. And with 4 players, it's probably about 35 minutes, I'd say, 45 tops with the 4-player. But because it is short, but there's a lot of setup because you've got to figure out how many tiles, got to lay them out. You got to separate out a certain amount of resources because of the resource shortage, things like that. So for as short as the game is, the setup's a little long, but I'm being nitpicky here because I really like the game. But this is something that it's a trade-off when you're thinking about setting the game up. And as I already mentioned, some people will not like the spinner. Regardless, even if you can spend resources to move it, some people just don't like it. I thought it was awesome. You might not like it. But overall, I really enjoyed the game. Highly enjoyed it. So if you're looking for that sort of worker placement game that's not complex and not too long, but still packs a punch, I would say this fits in the same era as, say, Targi, that's only a 2-player game, but it's worker placement. It's about 45 minutes, and it's got quite a chunk there to think about. This is even shorter than that, and I think has as much, if not more, to think about tactically. So I highly recommend this. So Montana's one you should check out if you want a shorter worker placement game that has a lot of things going on to think about. This has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. Bye.